All right. Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. A student my first semester at ICC sent me this meme in an email. I just plugged it in. I liked it. I plugged it in. I'd never taken it out. I don't know if he made it or what, but it suits me anyway for the class. So it's very simple language. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. This ties back to the federalism discussion that we had at the beginning of the semester. The states have powers. The states have reserved powers. But it emphasizes also that the inclusion of a Bill of Rights, it doesn't change the fundamental character of the national government. It still exists, but it exists along with the states, along with the people. And our national government remains one of limited and enumerated powers. Meaning it should, I mean, this again is the system we were left by the founders versus what we've got now. I mean, two totally different things. But we were supposed to anyway have a government of limited and enumerated powers. I don't know that I can actually truthfully tell you that. I mean, that it is still. So the first question one should ask involving an exercise of federal power is not whether it violates someone's rights, but whether it exceeds the national government's enumerated powers. So what Congress, what the President, what the Supreme Court should even be looking at if a case is brought up to them is what we want to do mentioned in the Constitution. It really is that simple, guys. Or it should be. So, in this sense, in the United States versus Darby says the 10th Amendment is but a truism. So, it just meaning it means what it says what it means. No law that would have been constitutional before the 10th Amendment was ratified became unconstitutional simply because the 10th Amendment exists. So, no ex post facto stuff going on in the passage of the 10th Amendment. The only question posed by the 10th Amendment is whether a claimed federal power was actually delegated to the national government by the Constitution. And we look at that question by studying the enumerated powers, not by studying the 10th Amendment. So if we want to know if a power was delegated to the national government by the Constitution, we should look within the Constitution, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, for the Supreme Court, Congress, the presidency, and see what the framers said in there about what that branch could and could not do. We shouldn't look at the 10th Amendment. So the Supreme Court understood that to be how the 10th Amendment should be interpreted for nearly 200 years. So beginning in 1976, though, a line of cases emerged that really started to give substantive constitutional content to the 10th Amendment. So it started to fill it in a little bit. 1986, Garcia versus San Antonio Metropolitan Transit Authority. A narrow majority of the Supreme Court held that San Antonio was required to comply with federal labor laws, and state sovereignty interests needed to be protected by the participation of states in the national political process. So you don't like what the federal government says, run a candidate for Senate. Run candidates for the House. Don't look at the judiciary to enforce the principles of federalism. So, I want you to take a look at this. If you want, I mean, you can click on this link and it'll take you to the Supreme Court website. right here, but more importantly, what I'd like you to do is just copy that from the PowerPoint, plug it into YouTube, and this is what you need to watch. Quimby. Quimby is our friend. So Garcia, though, has never been overruled explicitly, but in subsequent cases and cases since, the court has found enforceable limits on the power of the federal government to regulate states in their political subdivisions directly. So they found backdoors into this, which is like any opinion. I mean, an opinion, work with me here for a minute. So a judicial opinion might be laid out by the Supreme Court. There might be a case. They might say, okay, this is our opinion. This is the opinion of the court regarding whatever. All right. There might be another subsequent case, however, where the Supreme Court finds that maybe Section 1 maybe isn't so good. Or another case where they find that Section 6. So while they don't explicitly overturn themselves, the court finds ways to chip away at and keep the parts that they like of their ruling. So we have a 10th Amendment doctrine now, and these cases all involve action by the federal government that really in some way regulates or commands the state governments, such as telling what policies they must adopt, like in New York versus United States. Again, this will take you to Oyez, but there is a Quimby video first one up. Forcing state or local executive officials to implement federal laws, as in Prince versus United States. And again, you just put that into YouTube, the Quimby video will come right up and you should watch it. Or conditioning the state's acceptance of federal money on compliance with certain conditions, like South Dakota versus Dole. Again, a very famous case. Plug it into YouTube. The Quimby video will come right up. The 10th Amendment, however, has not been invoked by the Supreme Court to protect individual citizens against the exercise of federal power. So whether Amendment 10 is or ought to be, and that's a matter for legitimate debate, serving as an independent source of constitutional principles of federalism, it's a controversial debate, as I just said, both on and off the court. There is argument about whether these 10th Amendment cases that I'd show these to you if I was allowed to. I mean, but you can plug them into YouTube on your own, like New York or Prince or South Dakota v. Dole, really involve the 10th Amendment, or do they interpret or misinterpret grants of federal power in light of certain principles that the 10th Amendment codifies, but present in the Constitution structure and design even before the Bill of Rights was ratified? So does the 10th Amendment, in other words, do these cases really involve the 10th Amendment, or do they interpret something that the federal government was allowed to do anyway. That was already in the Constitution, and that's the controversy surrounding Amendment 10. And that is what I've got for you.